Hey guys, I'm Lea. Today I'm going to be talking through how I made Sesshomaru. I will split this in two parts, so part 1 will contain the fabrics and part 2 will contain the get ready with me and some small talks about the armor. In part 1 you will see the kimono and the pants and the belt and how I decided to do it. You are in no way obligated to do what I did because I am no way a seamstress. This is my hobby. So please enjoy this as much as I do.
First off, you would start cutting out your pieces, prepping them and finding out which way it takes most out of the fabric without you having too little fabric. I would always recommend getting at least half a yard more than you think you need, because mistakes are made. Even I did one just now. These pieces are for the neckline. This is the back piece. Measuring how wide I want my pants to be. I wanted them fluffy. This material is 100% polyester with no stretch, and it has a bit of weight, which I wanted because I didn't want the sleeves to be floppy. And same with the pants, I wanted them to have a bit structure. Please make sure you iron underway and make sure you have a clean iron. You don't want to stain your white fabric. I assume you know what's going on with seeing what I'm doing. The large pieces was for the sleeves and the small pieces are for the left side of the bodice. As you can see, I already have the kimono and pants done before. I am currently making this for a friend. So I decided to, why not film as well as I make the second costume of Sesshomaru. The pattern for the kimono, I used a kimono robe, which I got at my local store. This is the waistband for the pants, just rectangulars. Make sure to make that wide enough for you to get over your largest area around the hip. And use rubber band inside. This is me overlocking in every end, and I use that as a seam in many ways. This is the red decorative piece he has on the left shoulder, and I do sew stitches over on the top because that looks pretty and it keeps the fabric in place. This is me sewing only the shoulder pieces together. You would want that so it's easier to do everything else that's needed as the neckline before sewing the sides together. It's easier to handle the fabric. This is the pants. I made sure this was huge, and then I folded 2 folds on each side. So in total 8 folds, 4 in the front and 4 in the back. And I made sure that it didn't go, that I could get my hip in that. Sewing down the folds before sergering it with the overlock. I decided to sew one side of the waistband with the normal sewing machine down before folding it in and then using the overlocker to sew that with a fold. Make sure to leave an opening so you can get the rubber band inside. I just used the safety pin method. It's nice, easy. Just make sure that your rubber band don't twist. Now I'm getting in the bottom of the feet. So you want to make sure that you get your heel through. So measure the widest part of your foot, and you should get your foot through the measure band loop, and then you fold in. I used box pleats on the feet to get that baggy look. I think the total width of the foot was almost a yard. You can also cut away a bit so you have a curve, but I find that having the square and just box pleating it works fine. I would recommend you sewing one side of the ankle band, I'm not sure what to call it, with the regular sewing machine, then serger the other one, because I did miss a little part of the fabric with the serger, so I had to hand sew that afterwards, which you will soon see. Doing the same with the waist as with the waist, using a rubber band to make it shrink in. Here you see that part which I had to hand sew. It's no stress, but if you're not good at hand sewing, I would suggest you be a bit cautious when sewing things you have to fold. This is the applique, and that piece you see is a double-sided glue. Activates with heat. I did sew some security security stitches, but also because that looks pretty. I'm taking the thread that was left on the upper side to the downside to make sure no loose ends is in. Make sure to iron every piece, every fold before you do put some of the applique on, because it may stay quite good when you first have applied the heat to it. Please make sure you check your reference image when doing this, so you don't make any huge mistakes. I have the same pattern on both the front side and the back side of the sleeves. I made sure to iron the seam to the red side so that it didn't show on the white side, because the white fabric is a tiny bit see-through, so that the seam would be shown if I had it upwards instead of downwards. This two-side glue, which you can iron on, is not the strongest glue, so I do recommend you using some kind of security stitches. And I did go all the way around to make sure that it was holding in place. I must say, this was one of the hardest part of the cosplay, to make sure that the pattern was aligning with the neckline. It's a challenge. I do like to sew on the inside first and then the outside, but when folding it like that you wouldn't be able to sew on the outside. I mean on the inside, but only the outside. Which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to have all the red parts on top of the bodice, the shoulder part, to have that red security line. Now I'm sewing one of the necklines onto the other. I'm not sure what it's called, sorry. But I'm making sure that one is further out than the other one, the one that will be closest to your chest. So when you're wearing it, both of them will show, as you would normally have two kimonos, one under kimono, then the outer kimono. This is cheating, but it's fine, it's cosplay. And you save much fabric. I made sure that I sewed with my regular sewing machine first, then I went over with the serger to extra security on hold. It's very important when you glue these applications on over seams that those seams are flat, or else it will crease and it will show. This was the most time-consuming part. On those appliques alone, I did use one whole day. You're seeing this in half an hour. I used 4 days in total of the kimono, and that's the kimono alone. I had to use hand stitch some places because I couldn't get there with the sewing machine because of the neckline pieces. Next is sewing the security lines and then adding the sleeves onto the bodice. No, actually I would have to make sure the sleeve where the part where your hands comes out, that it has a nice finish, and I used the glue which I had on the applique to lay that flat. Working on the sleeves, making sure that the fold of the fabric where it switched from white to red is going towards the red. Here is what I was talking about with the glue and making sure that the opening for your wristband is nice. I didn't want any stitches to be seen, so I did use the glue. If you don't bother with stitches, then that would also work. Or if you love hand stitching, it would also work. Attaching the sleeves. I did first pin it, then sewing with the regular machine, then going over with the overlock machine. It's out of frame, sorry. And make sure to not touch the fabric if you hit yourself with one of the needles. I did that with my Sesshomaru Cosplay, the first one I made, and I actually accidentally got some blood on it, but it was on the part where it couldn't be seen. Luckily, it was on the neckline piece, which was on my chest. Now I'm making the last piece of applique, which is going from the main piece to the shoulder piece, and also making sure that my seams are ironed. I'm thinking when watching this that This looks so easy, but then I remember how I struggled. Please do take your time when working with this applicator. There are a total 11 of those, 4 on each arm, and then 3 on the shoulder. This is the result. Wow! It looks quite neat from a distance. This is the non-stitching back, the front. Next up is the belt. Though the two-sided glue piece is quite precious, so make sure you buy enough. If you do some mistakes, you can't get that piece back. I did use this glue instead of fabric glue because I do feel that the fabric glue often bleeds through and then it's showing on the surface. This is me burning the edges of the fabric because this is also 100% polyester, so 100% plastic, so it melts under flame, which is quite important that you know how dangerous clothes and fabric can be. I would not recommend anyone lighting a cigar in a cosplay. So do a flame test. My cosplay teacher, she really recommended it, and it was quite a surprise to see how easy some of the fabrics burn. Again, make sure that you follow your reference picture closely. The fabric I use is a type of sateen, but I didn't want to shine, so I used the wrong side out, and that had just enough of shimmer that I wanted it to have. And you can see the color difference between the one I have in addition to the one that my friend got. They didn't have that color of fabric anymore, sadly. So this aubergine was the closest we got. I'm now starting on the bow and tracing. I did use some stabilizer inside of the main bow to make it stiff, because when I didn't use it, it was floppy. And again, make sure you follow your reference picture, especially when you sew it on the belt piece. You would want the right side to stay on the right side and not the left side. Again, if you don't know how to make a bow, I would suggest you watch a tutorial which is describing it in depth, because this is just a time-lapse. Making the belt and the pieces that would drop down from the belt. Making sure that the seam is on the inside. Folding it and sewing it back to the halfway on the belt piece. I did a box pleating to shrink it in, so it got that rustic look. also added a rubber band on the inside for the belt to be a tiny bit adjustable. Other ways you could make it more adjustable is attaching velcro longer, but I would suggest you getting it as close as possible to what the size on the armor is on you to get a neat finish. Checking the length of those hang downs. I'm not sure what to call it. That part that hangs from the belt, basically. Also using a box pleat on the front piece that hangs from the bow. Attaching velcro. I made sure that the soft layer of the velcro was on the belt, and then the crisp attachment part would go onto the armor, so that the hard piece of velcro doesn't ruin the fabric more than necessary. You could also use push-on buttons and other forms for it to stay where you want it to stay, but I find velcro quite handy. Make sure to iron everything down smoothly. There was one piece that didn't stay, so I used a bit of fabric glue to hold it down, but I don't like that liquid fabric glue too much because when using too much it would stain. See you for part 2.